Hello. So on the second weekend in May, I went to a clinic in Burns Lake with the clinician Jim Greendyk. He is a reiner that lives down in Langley, and he's been teaching for a while, and he's a really good teacher. The way he explains is really good. It was only 2 days, but I learned a lot of valuable knowledge and tools that I don't think I would have learned otherwise. It was kind of stuff that my mom had tried to teach me, but it just didn't sink in. So I'm really glad that I was able to go to that clinic. On the first day, we made introductions and we talked about what we wanted to work on. And I'd gone there wanting to work on flying lead changes and spins. Apparently I wasn't ready, which I now see that I wasn't. And so after we made introductions and we talked about what we wanted to try and accomplish, once we started working, I kind of realized, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do this stuff at this clinic. Maybe in July, though. So on the first day, we did a 1-cone exercise, and he was doing what he was calling right rein, right leg, and it was a lateral movement that was getting their feet under them, teaching them body control, just to kind of see where everybody was at with that. And I had a hard time because I couldn't quite understand what he was saying, but after working with him one-on-one, I kind of figured it out. And then we moved on after a long time of that. We moved on and we were working on guiding and proper circles at a trot. And so we paired off, because there was only 4 of us in the group because it was a 2.5-hour lesson. So we paired off into 2 and we were doing circles, and he'd set up 2 cones on either side of the arena, and we had to draw ourselves a center line, if you will. And we had to work on keeping our horses between our reins and where we wanted them to go, and work on proper circles and not straying too far off the center line or too narrow, like not too small of a circle or too big. And yeah, so the first day was pretty laid back, and then the second day we started right off into the guiding again. We did a 4-cone exercise, and he set it up in the shape of a box in the middle of the arena. And we had to guide our horses around the square, first at a walk, and we had to use our outside rein and our outside leg to guide them so that we weren't touching their faces. We were working on leaving them alone a lot so that we weren't hauling on their faces and yanking them around on the inside. So the point of that exercise was to teach them to be willfully guided and not anticipate and move without you. So we were going around the box, and you had to turn at each cone and go and continue on and keep nice straight lines. And if your horse turned before you asked him, you had to counter arc him to the outside, so that way he would learn to wait for you, that he would just walk straight to the wall if you hadn't cued him to turn, which was really interesting because I'd always thought, well, my horse knows what I'm doing, like, isn't that how it's supposed to go? But I was very wrong. So after that, after we'd moved through a trot and it was going really well, we moved to a 5-cone exercise. And so again, they were set up in a square this time, and there was a cone in the middle. And what you had to do is you would ride in, and whatever your inside leg would have to be the way you'd pivot on the cone. I don't know if this makes any sense at all. But so each turn was on your inside, and it was always, so I went on my right the first, so each turn was to your right. So you'd go through the center to the first cone, and you'd turn it, you come back to the center, do the next one to the center, next one to the center, next one to the center, so on and so on. And that was just, again, teaching us to stay off their faces and using your outside to guide instead of pulling your hand around and just making them move out and just throw their hip out, and just having a nice smooth circle. And my turns ended up getting really sharp after I left my horse alone. Jimmy's got a really sensitive mouth, and so that was huge to learn to stay off of the inside and just guide him from the outside. He works beautifully now. So after we'd done that, we stepped it up to a trot, and it all went really well. We worked on circles and speed control. So he set up 4 cones in the middle, so that way it was like a little alley, and you had to go through and keep a nice perfect circle. And we were working on keeping them between our reins, and if they'd lean to the inside and start leaning on us and get real hard, we'd counter arc them to the outside and continue on. And every time they'd start leaning, that's what we'd do. Jimmy doesn't like to counter arc, especially to the one way, so that was kind of interesting. And we had to keep them between our reins and keep them nice up and do some nice circles. So it was really helpful, because I thought I was doing circles just fine. I'm like, well, my horse knows the track. He knows what he's doing, but he leans a lot, and I didn't really notice it until I did that clinic. And then, so that was the conclusion for day 2. And we were talking, and everybody had kind of branched off and were talking. And so I asked him, because I really wanted to be able to practice the spin. And so I asked him, I said, I've just been watching YouTube videos and I've been trying to learn myself, but the problem is I don't know if I'm teaching Jimmy right. And I don't want to teach him wrong and then have to go back and refix it. So he was explaining to me that to always guide him from the outside now, which is pretty engraved in my mind so far. And so, but make sure his nose is slightly tipped to the inside, but keep that pressure on the outside. And one of the beginning stages he explained to me was you had to back them up and then get there. So I'm going to be turning this way. So you had to get your inside front leg underneath your stirrup. So that way it was like that motion to set them up to cross over. So that was really, really hard for me to grasp, and I still kind of have trouble with it because I can't, it's a really hard thing to feel. So I get my mom to coach that. And I haven't had a lot of time to be able to practice these drills because I have had a pretty busy work schedule and school. But once school's over, I'm hoping to get down to the arena more often and start practicing these drills. I've already kind of practiced modified versions of them in a little sand pit not far from my house. And so far it's made a huge difference in like even everyday riding with Jimmy. He's a lot softer and he guides way better. I hardly have to touch him now. He neck reins way better. So I've been trying to practice it and remember everything that he's taught me. And the next clinic is in July, which I'm really looking forward to because hopefully I can move on to some more technical stuff now that I've got some basics under me. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. It was pretty short because each day we had 2.5 hours and there was 4 of us, so each of us had to work on specific areas. He didn't spend a lot of time on me, so I'm guessing I was doing pretty well, which is neat. So yeah, that's all.